Hi, Dr. Sangha. Hi, viewers. Greetings from Setu. We are back again with an illustrious Canadian writer, poet, film producer, and an eminent immigrant lawyer. It's great pleasure for Setu to host Dr. Jagmohan Sangha from Canada for the 17th episode of the limited series of literary and critical conversations. As you know, this journal has been at the forefront, highlighting the career trajectories and achievements of eminent creatives and their views on life and fine arts. Although he is a well-known name in Toronto, here's a brief intro of our guest. Dr. Jagmohan Sangha holds a PhD degree apart from a master's in English literature and a law degree too. Besides India, he has also studied in England and America. He started writing at the age of 14 and writes in English, Hindi, and Punjabi. He has published poems, short stories, travelogues, and interviews with famous personalities in Canada, India, USA, and Middle East. Dr. Jagmohan Sangha started his career at All India Radio, where he hosted a youth program, Yuvvani. His poems get published all over the world, and his poem Cacophony was included in the list of best poems and poets of 2008 in USA. He has published his interviews with legends like Amrita Pritam, Khushwant Singh, Tahira Saeed, Salim Kausar, Bhupinder Mitali, etc. Dr. Jagmohan Sangha also wrote several travelogues, which include Khalil Gibran's Lebanon and Scenic Sikkim Journey into Silk Route, and many more. Many of his ghazals, nazms, have been sung by famous singers. His lyrics, sung by Dolly Guleria, daughter of Nightingale of Punjab, Surinder Kaur, were a great hit in India. His other Hindi and Urdu ghazals were part of albums Kashish and Dil Se Dil Tak. Dr. Sangha also hosted a famous English general knowledge quiz on a multicultural Canadian TV channel for many years. He is also a film producer and runs a production house, Sangha Motion Pictures. He produced an English short film, Never Again, which touched the topics of broken immigrant families, single mother, and drug abuse amongst youth, which premiered at International Film Festival of South Asia in Toronto, and was later screened at many other film festivals all over the world and won him awards too. Recently, he produced a short film, Dried Apricots, which was a finalist at Sweden Film Festival. Besides films and documentary on mental health, Dr. Sangha also directed many videos. He has presented and published several research papers and has co-edited an anthology of poetry comprising 70 poets. Dr. Sangha practices immigration law in Canada at present. On behalf of Setu, I extend a hearty welcome to him. Welcome to the 17th episode of the limited series of literary and critical conversations, Dr. Sangha.
Thank you so much for having me over, Dr. Sangeeta. Thank you so much.
Well, At the outset, please tell us something about your childhood and early youth in India and your journey in Canada. Please share with the viewers some of your formative influences too.
Okay, right. So, as far as childhood is concerned, I spent it at many army cantonments since my father was an army officer. So, that also gave me an opportunity to go across places all over India because first 18 years of my life I spent in India before I left and went to university in England. So during that time, when schooling was there, I studied at various places, which was in Dehradun, IMA, Indian Military Academy, then
Mhm.
moved to a military school in Dholpur in Rajasthan, which is between Agra and Gwalior. Um, and then moved to Jabalpur. I was at Christchurch School in Jabalpur, and so on. So the childhood was all at army stations.
Mhm.
And you said, talk about what exactly the formative years. So that perhaps had a lot of influence because you meet new people. It has its pluses and minuses because as children, you do not realize that this is part of the job that your father has. What you realize is that by the time you make your friends, that's the time to depart from that particular station.
Correct.
So that involved a lot of emotional outbursts at that
Um,
point in time.
yeah, yeah.
So that is how the basic the schooling took place all across the country, but that also gave a lot of insight into the various places, the cultures at different locations within India, and so on. So that is how I began my journey, and then by the time I was about 17, I started working on radio. I used to do that earlier also in the children program when I was in 12 or 13 years old. But then by the time I was 17, I was hosting a Yuvani program on All India Radio. So that's in brief as far as
Yes.
the Indian span is concerned.
Oh, that's wonderful. Your father was in military and he has served the country. And we know what kind of, features are there usually in military people. And we can see those in you as well when we meet you in person. So you are so
Thank you.
grounded. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think since you said that, I mean, being grounded is definitely something that everybody should be. But then Army teaches you to respect women and womanhood. I still recall that even a general is sitting and a sepah's wife, leave aside an officer's wife, even a soldier's wife walks in, and the
Mhm.
general stands up to say namaste to that
Yeah,
soldier's wife, which is exemplary as far as respect for women is concerned.
that's true. So that's a fascinating story you told about your childhood and how you got uprooted and then transplanted again into new places. It's quite upsetting, but you learn too a lot
Absolutely,
when
absolutely.
you go to new places. Well, Dr. Sangha, you have also studied in England and America. What striking differences did you find in the American and British university systems?
Okay, all right. Yes, as far as United Kingdom and the US educational systems are concerned, see, there are certain differences which are very obvious. And those obvious differences are, for example, the US systems, they take little longer. For
Mhm.
example, most of the degrees would be 4 years in North America,
Mhm.
and most of the degrees would be 3 years in United Kingdom, for
Oh,
example.
mhm.
And I think the reason for that is that as far as UK is concerned, it's a very traditional, very structured kind of an education.
Mhm.
Because as you know, there are very traditional universities in England, from Oxford to Cambridge to London University, and so on. And they have adopted a very structured system. I still remember when I used to go to university in England, it used to be classes from 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the evening. Whereas in North America, I think the style of teaching is little more perfunctory, and it is little more open, and there is a very wide range of subjects that they throw you into. So
Mhm.
I think that's a little bit different as far as the US is concerned, because I think the structure of studies is uh, little different than you have it in the United Kingdom, and moreover, lot many professional degrees in United States demand a first degree. For example, if you want to go for law, you want to go for any other professional course, you need a bachelor's degree even before you enter. Whereas in England,
Mhm.
you can do it like you do it in countries like India. I think the Commonwealth adopts the very similar system. So you don't need a first degree to do so. This also the master's degrees are also sometimes in England are not 2 years; they are a year and a half. So the structure is different, the durations are different, the subjects are a little different, and I think. It could be more expensive, but at the same time, it's more compact as far as the studies in United Kingdom are concerned.
I see. These are valuable insights you have provided. Well, here's one of your compositions for the viewers. The poem is titled Cacophony, and this was one which was included in the list of best poems and poets of 2008 in USA. Here it goes. The noise was loud enough to wake me up from sleep. I got out of bed rushing to the balcony and found no trace of uproar anywhere. Hills were quiet as ever. Sea waves had no undulation. Monotony of the present routine, the somber thoughts of past, agony of unfulfilled dreams, desire of perpetual bliss, people who vowed never to part and then went away never to return, all crossed my mind's canvas as I looked through inane darkness with half open, sullen eyes. Solitary night was sleepy, but not my eyes. As I went back to bed, noise became louder, penetrating my eardrums. I pulled blanket over my face and put hands on both ears. Cacophony magnified further as I pressed my hands harder. The noise was not from outside, but from my inner self.
Hmm.
That's a poignant poem.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sangeeta. Thank you so much. You recited it so very well.
Yeah, and the award is well deserved.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
It's interesting to know that you are a trilingual writer and poet who writes in English, Hindi, and Punjabi. So, may we know what are the recurring themes and motifs across the trilingual writing spaces?
Well, yes, motives and themes of triangular writers. Yeah, I, I I think I'll dwell a little bit on this.
Mhm,
See, it's not uncommon, perhaps, in the Indian subcontinent to be trilingual, but
mhm,
it's very unusual to be a trilingual in English-speaking world, for example. Like in England, you won't find many trilinguals. In India or Pakistan or somewhere, you may in Indian subcontinent, because we have a mother tongue, then we have the so-called language which is spoken all over this country, and then English, of course, we learn.
mhm.
So I think in the whole world there are less than 15% people who are trilingual. That's it. So, but like I said, it's nothing unique that I have. But then I do write in English, Hindi, and Punjabi. As far as the themes and motifs are concerned, I think the themes are something which are more. they're broader and abstract, whereas the motives are more concrete, more specific, and they are the recurring concepts that we have. And I often use these motives to develop the themes. Now, having said that, the societal issues all over the countries are by and large similar, if not the same. So when you talk about themes, you definitely apply those societal issues
Mm.
um, to your poetry, and you, since you are a trilingual, you have a greater mental flexibility and perhaps a better cognitive abilities to put your words into the right perspectives. And sometimes you use your own poetry to translate into all the three languages.
Mhm.
If the motives and themes are very similar, or the issues of the society are very similar. So I think that definitely the issues come out of various regions that you are in. The problems could be different in England, for example, than what we have societal problems in India. But then, as a poet, I pick up those wherever I go and try to dwell on those, and I write in the language that I feel that I'm going to publish in or recite in, and so on. Thank you.
Wonderful. I remember you have a poem on mental disorder,
Yes.
which I read some time back. So, would you like to recite that one?
Yes, that poem is very close to my heart because I personally have come across many people with small little mental, I won't call them disorders, but then mental problems.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, more so in the Indian subcontinent, people are not very empathetic to those situations. They do not understand that it's not a disease per se, it is something that there's a disorder somebody is going through, and you need to deal with that person very empathetically. Otherwise, that person can make it, you can make the whole situation worse for that particular person. So there was this poem of mine, which is Walking on a Tightrope. I would recite that for you.
Mhm.
It's dedicated to all the people living with some kind of mental disorders, whether it's as simple as OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder,
Oh,
or something more than that. So I have dedicated to that.
yeah,
So it
please go
says
ahead.
it's about a young person who has ambitions, but people are trying to pull him down. So that's what this poem is all about. When he thought that life is a song, people were out to prove him wrong. Like anyone else, he thought he's normal. Yet people smoked and acted so formal. When negativity pulled down like wet sand, his heart leapt out for a helping hand. When to new heights he wished to soar, there was no one to help, no one to assure. When he washed hands, I'm talking about OCD, when he
Mhm.
washed hands again and again, people judged the act with lot of disdain. When he tried walking on a tightrope, people said he's hoping against hope.
Mhm.
When, like his friends, he chose a profession, people said he has unrealistic obsession. Now he puts a brave face. So there's a change. Now he puts a brave face but fights with fears. In some weaker moments, he sheds some tears. Some days are blessed, some days are bad. There are exuberant moments and some sad. He tries his best to dispel negative thoughts. Sometimes they entangle in undesirable knots. His colors of life could have different textures if people around could show positive gestures. With a mind so fertile, with a mind so fertile, his intellect has no border while he copes up with his mental disorder. So it's a
Yeah,
very sensitive poem.
quite a
Um,
touching one. Oh, yeah, people find it difficult to cope up with such OCDs and such mental. stress.
See, in such situations, the person who is suffering needs a lot of
Help.
empathetic attitude. People should understand what that person is going through so that he comes out of it. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen very often. And sometimes within the families also that doesn't come. And it's poets like us who have to bring these social issues to the public so that this world can be wonderful to live in.
Yes, yes, that's true. So you have highlighted that aspect of the problems that people face.
True.
So that's wonderfully done.
Thank you.
Well, being a poet and a lyricist, what difference do you find between the two forms of writing? Their distinctive features, if you could lay out.
Between
Lyrics, writing lyrics.
lyrics and poetry?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's a good question. Um, See, basically, both lyrics and poetry, they use the same kind of
Mhm.
imagery as far as the poets' poems and the lyrics are concerned. Both benefit from a poetic device like hyperbole or
All
for that matter
figurative
any
devices.
metaphors and so on. They both
Mhm.
benefit out of that, but the only difference, or not only but major difference that I can spell out is that when you're writing a poetry, you can take liberty of writing it in a verse form, writing it in an open form, and it may be rhyming, may not be rhyming, it could not be philosophically explicitly worded. Whereas when you write lyrics,
Mhm.
which I write for various people and films and albums and so on, I think you are more restricted over there because it is the lyrics are set to music. So when they are set to music, sometimes you have to go by the meter that the composer has already thought of.
True. Mm.
And sometimes what happens is the composition is already ready, and then you are asked to write the lyrics. Now that's a tough call because um, you have to make the size of your object, and the
Mm.
vessel is already designed, so you have to work accordingly.
Customize according to.
Right, you have to customize. And when you customize, what happens is sometimes some of the words, they in the poetry, you find that they're absolutely appropriate and they are worded well, they meaning well, and so on. Whereas in lyrics, sometimes you have to take out those words and
Mhm.
because they are not fitting on a particular meter of the composition that has already been designed.
Mhm.
So that I find is the major difference. But as lyricist, I always try to see that the basic meaning of those words is not lost. Uh,
Mhm.
and it should not happen that you are conveying a different meaning than what you had initially imagined.
Mhm.
So while I try to work with the composer, I also try to make sure that the same theme or same metaphors and hyperbole that is required is adhered to.
Mhm. Yes, the spirit should remain intact.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's a fine distinction you have spoken about. You are a diversified creator who has made inroads into film production as well. So, how did this happen? Was it easy for you or challenging?
Okay, so a few things happen in life for good, and they happen by chance. So as far as filmmaking is concerned, I personally feel that every human being is an actor. Sometimes we act professionally, sometimes we act in daily life, and so on. And acting is something that we all have in our spirits inside. So since I was associated with theater,
Mhm.
when you are associated with theater, acting is very close to your heart.
Correct.
And it's much more than the cinematography alone. So you understand the psyche of the audience, you understand what kind of dialogues are required, and so on. So when you come from a theater, you have a different personality. Now, when I was thinking of making a film, when the idea came of making a film because as a writer, uh, you have a story, and now you want to put it into the right uh, screenplay so that you can make a good film out of it.
Mhm.
So I had a few friends, and I came across an actress who had worked for a long time. Similarly, I had some theater actors.
Mhm.
Excuse me. Sorry. And then I came across this gentleman who had a lot of experience as a director in Bollywood.
Mhm.
So once we sat down and talked about it, I asked this gentleman whether he would direct my film if I produce, and he agreed instantly, and we started working on it. So that is how my first film happened. So it was directed by somebody who had a lot of experience from Bollywood, and
Mhm.
then I was trying to learn the basics of filmmaking, and but then we put up a team that came out very well, and then I started working with that. So we made certain videos, and I have a friend, Mr. Iqbal Brar. He's a famous singer over here, so we worked on some of his videos, and
Mhm.
we filmed those. I directed those. Then I made a, documentary on mental health,
Mhm.
and then our latest film, Dried Apricots, came up, and so on. So the journey still continues. A very fascinating journey, very
Mhm.
fulfilling experience, and I think journey still continues. It's a challenge,
Yes,
but then it's a good
cinema,
challenge. Yeah,
cinema is a totally different dimension of creativity.
it is.
So that's something very good you are doing, film production. And
Thank you.
that's going on, right?
Yes, indeed, it is going on, and now we are in the process of releasing this dried apricot film. It has gone to international film festivals.
Mhm.
But we are in the process of releasing it here, and then there's a premiere in Pakistan in February, and so on. So it has gone to England and US and many other countries in Europe and other places, as far as the international film festivals are concerned.
And it must be quite challenging to find time out being a such a busy immigrant lawyer here.
That definitely time is always a challenge, no doubt about it. I must admit that yes, it is a challenge, and sometimes there are small little sacrifices that you need to do. But at the same time, I personally feel that if you invest your time towards something creative,
Mhm.
that gives you lots and lots of satisfaction.
And
Uh,
especially
uh,
if you are passionate about it.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
that's
And if
true.
you are fulfilling your passion,
Mhm.
then it does not really pinch you as far as your time is concerned, because you are utilizing your time so constructively, and you have a passion to do what you are doing. So it becomes something very meaningful. And when the result comes in, and like we won some international film festival awards for both
Mhm.
for my last film and even for this film,
Mhm.
which which has been a finalist in Sweden Film Festival. And while you are talking to me, there's another award that this has won from Reels International. So
Oh,
our film
really?
has been selected for another film as well, another festival as well. So
Oh,
it's
great.
going on.
Congratulations for that.
Thank you so much. Very
Yeah.
nice of you. Thank you so
So
much.
that's so gratifying,
Yes, it
highly
is.
gratifying.
It gives you a lot of encouragement, because it's not only the story, it's not only the screenplay, it's not only the how you have made the actors work, but it is much more. Even the technical aspects and other things are taken into consideration
Mhm.
when you win an award. So it's very satisfying when you feel that
Mhm.
the films are being recognized not only in your country but outside the country as well.
You really need,
Thank you.
deserve an applaud.
Thank you so
So,
much. I appreciate that.
yes. So you have interviewed legends like Amrita Pritam and Kushwan Singh. Would you like to narrate some interesting nuggets that you came across of their lives?
Yes, it was a wonderful experience to be associated with a lot of legends, actually. and people who have contributed a lot to literature in the subcontinent. I was fortunate that I came across those people, and with some of them, a friendly relationship, with some of them, a formal relationship to interview only, and so on. But then definitely, it has been a wonderful experience as far as studying their uh, life journey is concerned, their contribution to the literature is concerned, and their personalities. Having said that, I mean, it's not always something very different before I come to these two personalities in particular. I would just tell you something which is in my mind, and
Mhm.
which is very practical, perhaps. I don't know whether many people feel it or I felt. See, sometimes what happens is you are waiting to meet a particular personality whole your life, because from childhood or from youth you have been patronizing those people, and you have been looking up to them, and you think they are the living legends, and someday you would like to meet them.
Mhm.
My experience has been good with majority of them, but
Mhm.
then sometimes you also feel that it was better that you had not met this person.
Mhm.
Perhaps your image or
Um,
uh, your mindset would have remained absolutely different
mhm.
had you not met that person. It's a combination of personalities versus writings and so on. But having said that, as far as the only the writings are concerned, or only the contribution is concerned, that definitely each one that I met deserved, undoubtedly.
Okay.
Uh, as far as these people are concerned, if I generalize, I felt that they have a very bohemian kind of attitude towards life, although they are also very innocuous personalities, but at the same time, there's a big dichotomy as far as their attitude is concerned and view towards the world is concerned, and they're very dichotomous views that they carry, unlike most of the people in the street. So that bohemian attitude perhaps makes them think differently. They think differently, they write differently, and that is why they distinguish themselves from the masses. um, as far as you named a couple of people, I interviewed Khushwant Singh, and that was
You have written a travelogue on Khalil Gibran's
right,
Lebanon. Yeah.
right. So before I come to that, Khushwant Singh, a wonderful personality. I mean, whatever personal preferences he had, that's a different thing. But I'm talking about his writings and literature, and what he has done in his writings. So a very unique personality and very sharp person. I was driving him through. I was going around, and the first thing he asked me was, "Why are you wearing this gold kara? I used to wear a gold kara."
I see.
And he said, "Why are you wearing gold, not a steel kara?" So
Ah,
he is such a sharp personality,
he
and
was.
he was so quick even at that age. When I met him, he was
Um,
already nearing 90, and in the
very
fag end of his
witty.
life.
Yes, and very good sense of humor he had.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. And very intelligent, very
Mm.
sharp. His
Yes.
wits were so sharp that you just can't imagine, even
Mm.
at that age. That definitely was a wonderful experience to be with him and spend some moments with him.
Mhm.
Amrita Preetham, again, she was a legend as far as Punjab was concerned. So it was wonderful to be with her. Although, again, Bohemian attitude. I mean, I was there, and my brother, who is colonel in army, who was colonel at that time, and he was in uniform, and we were both sitting with her and we are both sardars, and she's continuously smoking. Nothing wrong with that, but
Mm.
I'm just telling, bohemian attitude and absolutely natural style, irrespective of who you are talking to, irrespective of what you are doing. So this is the kind of people that they are, very natural, very genuine. Whatever they are, they exhibit the same thing. So it was such a pleasure meeting all these people, and also others, like Tahira Said Saiba,
Mm.
and the gentleman who wrote "मैं ख्याल हूँ किसी और का मुझे सोचता
Mm.
कोई और है,"
Mm.
and Bhupinder Matali, of course. They were personal friends. So it was always a pleasure meeting these people and interviewing such people.
Yeah,
Yes.
true
You
legend
asked about,
they are.
yes, thank you. Sorry. You asked about travelogues.
Yeah, you have written on Gibral Khalil's Lebanon.
Yes. Yes.
Lebanon.
So
So,
sometimes, see, travelogue writing is a different genre altogether. I sometimes feel that it is such a wonderful thing because you are not only traveling, you are noticing a few things which you are passing over to the others, and the others can benefit out of it.
mhm,
You are telling them about places, you are telling them about the socio-economical development in that place, the legends that they have been, how their life has been, and so on. Khalil Gibran, for example, I went to Lebanon
mhm,
and I was in Beirut, and I was looking for his house, and I was doing some research because I knew that he lived in Boston in the United States, but then I knew that he came from Lebanon. So I asked a couple of people and we found that from the hotel that I was in Beirut,
mhm,
this place was about 2.5 hours journey right into the jungle and on the hills. And when I was trying to make my program, I was warned against it because Hezbollah and all those people were very active over there. And as a Canadian, I was warned that you have to be careful. It's better not to go, and so on. To cut the long story short, it was a wonderful journey across the hills on one side and the sea on the other side, and climbing right into the hills and visiting Khalil Gibran's place where he was born, and later a museum where he was buried, and all that. And then I picked up one of his stanzas while coming back because it was drizzling. So
mhm.
there is a famous poem from Khalil Gibran, the tears and the clouds. So I have quoted that in the end. So
Okay.
it's always so wonderful and so good to see those places where the legends have either they were born or they were buried or they lived their lives and so on.
Excellent. I know that you have started your career very young as 18, as that of hosting Yuvani, an all India radio program. So that was then. In Canada, too, you have hosted the famous English General Knowledge Quiz on a multicultural Canadian TV channel for several years. Let us know the highs and lows of it.
Right. That was such a wonderful experience because in Canada, I think that was the program of its own kind, which was not there earlier, and I don't think there's one now also. So this was an English general knowledge quiz, and I used to invite six couples. I had a co-host. She was helping me with the whole program, and I was the host of the program. And we used to call six couples for this general knowledge quiz. And
Mhm.
now you said highs and lows, and the challenge is, see, the challenge was that you can't repeat the questions. I ran the program several years, and I'm very humbled to say that not even one question got repeated during all this period.
Oh, really?
And six couples used to come to my show, and we used to have a competition, and then ultimately one couple used to win.
Mhm.
And those questions, highs and lows, since you asked me, highs and lows were sometimes what I have observed is that people, if you call for an interview or a poetry, they would come over. But when it comes to a quiz program, not many people have inhibitions. Not many people are very self-conscious of the fact that they may not be aware of a particular answer to a question, which is, I feel that's perfectly normal because we human beings, we all are in that situation because we may know many things, but we may not know a few things which the other person knows. So there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, every human being does not know everything. So I personally felt that people who came over were very mature individuals who took the challenge, but then there were many more who refused to come to the program because they said, in case we are unable to answer, then in society people would think that they do not know even answer to those particular simple questions. So
Mhm.
that is one thing that I observed. Second thing was that in case you give two difficult questions, then people would not come over. If you give two simple questions, then people would not be able to relate to a program with a particular status. So
Ah,
I had taken a middle path whereby we were giving very interesting questions. Apart from being a quiz program, they were all very interesting. For example, what's the color of black box of an aeroplane? Now
mhm.
everybody calls it a black box, but actually it's an orange color, and so on. A few things which we know but we don't know, and then that's a kind of learning that we impart through the quiz programs. So it was a wonderful program. It was a multicultural atmosphere where we had various nationalities coming over to the program, and I hosted that quiz program on television here in Canada for several years, which was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, that's commendable. A very different side of your personality, and
Thank
you
you.
made it successful. You got success in short film production as well, Dried Apricots, which was the finalist of the Sweden Film Festival. So tell us about this film, please.
All right. So dried apricots is a very different name, and many people asked why dried apricots. So okay. So there's a context of this in the film as well. Although the dried apricots, it's like the essence over the period of time more concentrated. uh, and as far as this film is concerned, the context is that there are two individuals from the different world, different religions that they meet, and every time they met, this person used to bring dried apricots for her, and
Okay.
which she loved. And unfortunately they had to part due to the societal problems. And when they are parting, it's a very emotional film. And there was an incident where they both undergo the mental trauma, and they have a post stress disorder that they both try to cope up with, which brings them together. And then there's a parting scene where she says, "If you ever meet me again, would you bring dried apricots for me?" And so they meet after 25 years, and she's in a coma, and so on. So this film is a very, and he again brings dried apricots after 25 years, and the whole thing changes as far as her life is concerned. So both it has connotations as far as the film is concerned, plus dried apricots is a concept whereby you feel, and sometimes what happens is sometimes very small little incidents in our personal lives we do not realize, but they become so significant in our lives subsequently. When
Mhm.
they happen, we do not realize in daily lives are simple little things, but then they can
When you
take
look
a,
back.
absolutely, when you go back, they can be a very essential part of your journey. So this film is based on all these factors, and a very emotional film, and a very delicately directed film.
And even this title I find very symbolic,
Right,
and it has multi-layered interpretation. Like if you think
absolutely,
over, there could be several meanings
absolutely,
of the title itself. So,
right.
very thoughtfully done.
Thank you so much.
I
Thank you.
congratulate you once again for this film being the finalist at the Sweden Film Festival.
And some other more festivals. It has just started its journey to win the awards, and so what happens is once you present it, some awards are 2 months away, some are 4 months away, and so on. So I was lucky that within about 2 weeks of submissions, we won two awards.
Oh.
So
Marvelous.
very
Marvelous.
humbled.
Mm. Well, Dr. Sangha, you are a successful immigration lawyer. How do you reconcile this profession with your creative side?
Again, I think it's the passion. See, what happens is in most of uh, whether you are into literature or filmmaking or whatever you are, one thing is very important: the passion for doing what you do. And same even in countries in Indian subcontinent, sometimes people always used to have a second profession,
Mm,
even the very topmost writers.
mm,
They had a second profession, although they were very famous writers.
mm,
um, uh, Now the things are changing over the period of time with commercialization of everything. So some of the top writers are able to live on the literature or on their books or storytelling or whatever. But the fact remains, in Canada, most of the people who are into any kind of literature or any kind of art form, they also have their professions. So I enjoy my profession. I like what I do, but at the same time, I always feel suffocated if I do not do something different. So
mm,
I have always been writing, and writing has given me such a immense satisfaction. I think I must quote to you, writing is such a wonderful hobby. I still remember I had a pet dog, and we had to put him to rest because he was suffering. And we were all very miserable because we were not ready to do that. But in Canada, it's very common that all the vets advise you in the end that the dogs do not moan and uh, show their kind of pain as human beings do. And you have to understand that they are in a position where they're going to go in any case, so let the pets go in peace. So ultimately, we decided we called the vet home,
mm,
and we were all sitting and doing praying for him, and he was sitting right in amidst us, and without realizing that we were doing that part puja only for his sake. And everybody was devastated. So was I. And then he was given an injection, and within no time, he passed away. So I was coming to the poetry. The strength of poetry is so much that I was so miserable. All I did was went upstairs, locked my room for next 45 minutes, wrote a poem, Ode to Charlie, that was his name, wrote a poem about him. And I came out and I was feeling normal again, if not normal, very close to normal, which might
mm,
not have happened for several days had I not written that poem. So
mm,
that is the strength of writing. Now, when coming to films, once you are a writer, you want to make sure that your writing takes another form. So the story concept of dried apricots came from my son Karan. He's a barrister and a solicitor by profession. Again, he's in a different profession, but at the same time, very passionate writer. So the story concept came from him, and then I offered that why don't you direct it as well? And he went to University of Toronto, and then he has been associated with theatre and film school as well. So he came out wonderfully well as far as the direction was concerned with the movie which I produced. And his was the story idea, and then I wrote the screenplay and so on. So at the end, to answer your question, when you combine your passion with
mm,
your present job, it becomes so very satisfying that you are
mm,
not doing just one thing, you are doing something additional, and that is so very satisfying to you, and you are passionate about that. So I think there could be nothing more constructive to do if you can embark on something which you love. And I think I love both my job and filmmaking and writing. So that is why the combination came up very well for me.
mm, mm. Yes, it heals. It has the quality of healing. If you write
Absolutely.
something, if you create something, it's very, gratifying a feeling.
Absolutely. The time sometimes does take a toll on you, and you need a support of your family, without which it cannot be done. But then at the same time, at the end of the day, it's very, very satisfying indeed.
Yeah. Wonderful that you find time out for all these things. And your son, too. You are so blessed to have a son who is also
Indeed.
into writing and who has inherited the right genes.
He writes much better than me. In fact, this young generation is so good with words. Uh, what we used to write in hours, they can write in minutes.
Mhm.
So it's. I'm not saying this because he's my son. Most of the young generation is doing that, but he writes so wonderfully well within short span of time,
Mhm.
and their ideas. That's why I try to encourage all young generation because their ideas is something which is so new, and they can do the same things in much shorter period than what we do.
Correct. So that kind of training they get because they are born in this family where people like you, so that automatically goes on and that comes
Absolutely.
naturally to them.
Absolutely.
Well, so to move ahead, may I know your forthcoming projects?
Well, as far as writing is concerned, I am working on a short story book.
Mhm.
Actually, poetry has been close to my heart, but I started my career with short stories. Even I was working for All India Radio, I used to broadcast some of my so-called Geeton Bhari Kahaniyan at that point in
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And at that age, it was very, very satisfying indeed. And now, many years later, I think I'm going back to short story writing and I'm working on a book of short stories. So that's as far as the writing is concerned. As far as filmmaking is concerned, there are two ideas running parallel, and we need to choose one of them. One is to make a feature film. The second is not to make a feature film, but to make a web series. So we are working on both of them, and we would be coming out with one of them.
Great. So we wish you well for all these projects. Any message to young writers and poets?
Well, very young writers and poets, the only thing that I would like to say is that keep writing. What happens is sometimes we stop either because of other compulsions. It could be a studies, it could be a job, and so on.
Mhm.
But I personally feel if you keep writing, irrespective of what circumstance, because writing is such a wonderful hobby, you don't have to sit anywhere and write. You can be traveling, you could be in
Mm.
aircraft, you could
Yeah.
be sitting in a car or whatever, and you could write. Writing is such a wonderful hobby. So one is that keep writing, don't stop it, don't wait for the opportunity, don't wait for holidays, don't wait for anything because that's not never going to happen. Secondly, once you write, don't put it under your pillow, put it on. When I still remember I was young, there were not too many opportunities. So the first poem that got published in the college magazine or school magazine for that matter, it was like winning a Nobel Prize because your poem gets published. And then when it used to get published in the newspapers, it used to be such a proud moment because it was not very common because there were handful of newspapers. I still remember when I was in England at university, I was extremely busy, but at the same time, I never stopped writing. So I think the crux is continue doing what you want to do
Mhm.
and get it published. And these days, there are so many opportunities to put it on Facebook, put it wherever, get recognized. There could be situations where people may discourage you, but at the same time, take the constructive feedback, but keep on going on. So the young generation, I would say, just keep writing, keep doing what you like, whether whatever it is. Don't stop it and publicize it so that you get encouraged, show it to people, discuss with people, try to learn more, and don't stop. That's all.
Well, guys, pay a careful ear to his valuable advice. These are some very valuable tips being given by Dr. Sangha. So it has been a very engaging conversation. In this short span, we have covered almost all the major aspects of your opus, Dr. Sangha.
Thank
I
you so much.
wish
Thank you
you
so much for having me over, and it is such a pleasure to be on your program. And I wish Setu Good luck. You Setu is doing such a wonderful job both in print as well as the this media. So I think this torch of literature has to continue. And Dr. Sangeeta, you and Dr. Sharma, you are doing such a wonderful job, and I wish you all the success even in future.
Thank you for your kind words. I wish you the very best for your future prospects. May you reach new summits of success in future. Thanks, Sangaji. Thanks,
Thank you.
viewers. In the next episode, we will be back again with yet another important guest with us. Till then, bye bye. Bye
Thank you
bye.
so much.
Bye, Dr. Sangha.
Thank you. Bye bye.